Hey guys, I'm back. We had something here called Silver Week, and I went to a place called Itajima down in Kude, down in Hiroshima. I have a friend's place down there that I stayed at for a little while, and kind of just laid back and chilled out, and kind of hung out and did my own thing there, and that was kind of cool. So I'm back now, did some DJ stuff up there. I'll have a video that I'll probably throw on a couple of my videos or something of me doing some funny DJ songs and stuff that I did with my friend. So let's get into this. My fourth and last marriage that I will probably ever have was to a girl that I met through the daycare that my kids were at, and she was actually divorced, and she had moved from an island called Akashi, and her husband was still living out there. She got a divorce and moved back with her mother, and then got her own place not very far from her mom, and was living there. And her kids had been going to the daycare with my kids since they were, her oldest son was like, I think 4 or 5, something like that. And they go to school in Japan once they are 7. Basically, they go to regular school and they get out of the daycare. So it's called a hoikoen. And so my kids were all going to the same hoikoen as her daughter and her son. And they really dug me. I used to go to the school, as I've talked about before. I've always been into kids, so I went to the school and I used to tickle all the kids and have fun. And you know, I love kids, so that was not a big deal. It was fun. All 110 kids in the daycare knew me. They called me, my son's name was Brandon, so they called me Lou. His name was Brandon Lou. They called him Lou Chan's Papa. So I was known as Lou Chan's Papa. And I would come to the daycare, and as soon as I came to the daycare, like 50 kids would run up to me and like grab my hand or grab my leg or something, and they'd look up at me and they'd laugh, and they already knew I was gonna like tickle them because something that people don't understand about the Japanese culture. I've talked a little bit about it, but they're very kind of like almost, they don't have any contact with their kids even when they do, and they're very I mean, from a psychological standpoint, this is something that a lot of people need to understand about Japan and why the Japanese culture is the way it is. They're very standoffish with their own children, and they don't actually hug them a lot, they don't tickle them a lot, they're very serious with their children, and because of that, it affects them mentally. And they don't have a lot of input from the father, and from the mother they don't either, because they spend most of the time with the grandmother, and the grandmother is obviously not going to play with them much. Problem that we're having here, that we've been having now, and they've just started finding out about it about 6 to 10 years ago. They started talking about it on the TV. There's a lot of children, they actually have to have teachers stand next to them when they do their field days, because the children can't run straight. And that's because as a child they don't get to run, because they go out with grandma, with Obachan, and when they run in the areas that they should be running in, like parks, public parks, the Obachans, the grandmas, tell them to not run because it's dangerous. So they typically end up being very sheltered, very overly cared for, kind of like a helicopter mom, but or the helicopter grandma, you know. But in this case, it would be like, you know, a war helicopter, you know, not just a regular helicopter. And this typically shows up very much in the mental stability of the kids as they get older. But because of this, you tend to get children that are very disconnected, very sullen, and what I would do is I knew about that. I would come into the daycare, and it might be the only contact they had with a male figure, and it might be the only fun, because even at the daycare there's a lot of girls taking care of the kids, and they do a lot of kind of like cute things that aren't really fun for the kids. They just are, it's kind of like baby talk and things like that, where it's they don't actually do a lot of fun things. A lot of the things they do are learning, and they don't really get to play. And when they play, they got to keep them safe because of the parents. They're very scary. You know, I've told you before about the mothers that are very annoying and very loud and obnoxious and stuff. And if their kid gets hurt at the daycare, they're obviously going to hear about it. So they can't let them run around. They can't let them play a lot. And because of that, I would come into the daycare knowing that, and I would play with all the kids, and I would make them laugh, and I would tell them funny stories, and just make them have actual fun, because I felt really bad for them. You know, it's kind of like when you see a dog chained up in a fence, and nobody ever really pets them, and they look really dirty, and you know, you just want to like jump the fence, which I used to do when I was a kid. You know, you jump the fence, you walk over to the dog, you sit down on the ground, bring some treats with you, and you feed him, you know. And pretty soon the dog's tail is wagging, and they can't believe that somebody actually is paying attention to them for once in their life, you know. So this is kind of the same effect that we have with kids here. And so because of me doing this, her husband didn't have anything to do with her kids. In fact, he was abusive. And her kids really thought I was great. And when her son told her at one point, you should get remarried, you know, you should get a husband and stuff like that, she's like, well, who do you think I should marry? And they said, Duchan's papa. So they thought I was great, you know. A lot of kids at the daycare said that, because I was the type of dad that the children wanted. A dad that was engaged, a dad that made them have fun, a dad that actually did things with them, you know, which is commonly something that you don't see. So I have told you my story of the wife before that, my third wife. So you know all the bullshit that was going on there. And after I came back from America and was there for a few months and realized my wife was the same, I met my new wife, and I met her through a party that we had through the daycare, that 4 or 5 moms decided to go to a place called Shiawase Numura, which is like a mental handicap home that has old people in it and young people and mentally handicapped children, things of that nature, Alzheimer's patients. It's a huge hospital, but also there they have like a riding village, they have a golf course, they have a swimming pool, they have huge soccer areas, big giant parks, they have like a kids water slide area, they have like, it's like a huge massive place, almost looks like Disneyland, you know, it's a great place. So we went up there, and while we were there, that was like the first time I really hung out with her. And while we were there, I really got, and it was right in front of my wife, you know. I was tickling her kids, tickling all the things. I was picking her up, throwing her over my shoulder and swinging her around, stuff like that. My wife didn't say anything because I was just getting to know her and didn't have anything to do with her really. So it was just kind of fun. And I ended up going to one of the ladies' houses that night, and she went, and her mother was there, and then her friend was there, and then my wife was there. And we were all talking and having fun, and I learned that she was like into U2, and sat down and talked with her, and by the time that night was over, I was really interested in her. And I was trying to actually kiss her. That's how cool it was. Because like I say, I was having sex with my wife like once every 6 months, and this girl was actually showing general interest in me. And I was done with my wife, and I actually wanted a divorce at the time. So, yeah, so me and her really hit it off, and I told her we should do karaoke. You know, we should go to a karaoke or something like that. So the next day, or maybe 2 days later, I took her out in our car. We went to like a ramen noodle restaurant, and then I went to a dock after that. That was over by where I had a export business, and I had a dock where I kept all my cars. And we went over there and sat by the water, and we had sex for the first time. That was pretty awesome. And then after that, we started meeting at my house because my wife used to go to work at night, so I was kind of being shitty, you know, but I didn't really give a fuck because she was a bitch. So we were actually meeting at my house after my kids went to bed. They were upstairs sleeping, and I was downstairs with her having sex, you know, and that I don't care about that. You know, she got what she deserved, and I was in love with somebody else, so fuck her. And I did that for 4 months. About 4 months we were seeing each other like that. And then she had helped me go to some lawyers here in Japan to try to find out how I could keep my kids and maybe get them from her. All the lawyers told me that would be kind of impossible because of the way the Japanese court systems are, and that it would be almost impossible for me to get even custody of them or to see them, because the chances are my wife would lie and say that I was doing something, and then they would give her the custody. So it all culminated in me going to the movie theater with my new wife, who was just my girlfriend at the time, and I went and seen God, I always forget the name. It's something of the Spotless Mind with Jim Carrey. And while we were walking around in Sonomiya, and actually the first time we went out when we had sex, we were actually seeing two, because when we went to the ramen noodle restaurant, my wife is a nurse, and one of her friends from work, one of the nurses, seen me walking around with her and told her about it, and then she questioned me about it, and I just told her, oh, we just went out and, you know, went out to like karaoke and had fun, you know, which we really went to a ramen noodle restaurant and then had sex. But yeah, I told her we just went out and had some fun, you know. And that time she seen me, and she told me she didn't want me to see her anymore. And she went off, and she's like, "Are you having sex with her? And do you love her?" And, well, you know, all this kind of stuff. And like, you know, she was doing the thing like how women do, you know, which doesn't work with me, but they're like, tell me now, and you know, this kind of bullshit, just going off. And she was to the point where I almost wanted to punch her in the face. So at that point, I don't hit girls, even though I'm a MGTOW. I don't believe in hitting women. I do believe in slapping a bitch, though. But I've never hit a woman. So I wasn't going to start there because I'm in Japan. And if you hit your wife and she's going to go to court and stuff, you could, first of all, end up in jail. But secondly, never see your kids, you know, because she can say, well, he was abusive, he hit me, you know, even though she provoked it. So, like I'd said before, she used to throw around, you know, I want a divorce. So this is the first and only time I said it. I said, I want a divorce. I think it's time for a divorce. And the first thing she said to me is, it's too early, which told me right away, because of the way the Japanese culture is. My son was only 3 at the time, I think, something like that. So what she was saying was, I want a divorce. I want to divorce you. But I want to wait until I want to divorce you, and until the kids are old enough where I think it's old enough for me to get you out of the picture, is what she was saying. It's too early for us to divorce. We should wait, you know. And I was like, nah, I'm done. You know, I've had enough of this bullshit, you know. So, as I said in the last one, she made an appointment for us to go to the lawyer, and I had a translator there. and the translator was also kind of like my lawyer person, and they were basically all working for my wife, not me, and they also set it up to where they told me, which was a lie, that everything was going to be dealt with that day, and that I after that day, everything had to be solved that day, which was bullshit. It's not true. Anybody tells you that, and you're here in Japan and you think you're going to lose your kids, don't sign anything, and don't believe that. It's bullshit. They can go for weeks, months, years, and until you get everything worked out, just like a regular marriage counselor, regular divorce, until everything is solved and you sign on the dotted line and say, yeah, I agree with that, nothing is solved. And the way she had said it, it was like that. And the other problem that I had is I didn't really know if the girl I was going to marry, which was my new wife, if she was going to have me live at her house. So I was kind of up in the air, and I thought maybe I might get kicked out of my house with my wife. I had a bunch of things there, including music equipment that I was worried about, and I didn't want her to destroy them because 2 months before that, she took my cello and had cut the guitar strings on it, and I had bought a guitar, an acoustic guitar for my son, and it was his guitar, it wasn't even mine, and she actually stepped on it and broke it. Another time she had taken an electric 7-string guitar that I had and she threw it outside on the balcony, and she took a GT5 Boss effects foot pedal that was really big, and at the same time she had cut the electric cord and threw it outside. So she was really abusive and a bitch. So I was worried about my equipment, my music equipment, and everything else that I had at the house. All my stuff that I owned was at that house. So what I started doing is starting moving things out to my other wife's house, so that I could take it on the airplane with me. And she had set it up, like I'd said, that she could only, basically a week after we did the lawyer thing, a week after that, I was leaving to go back to the U.S. And I had told you before that my dad had died. So the month after my dad died, we got a divorce. So I divorced her, signed over rights to the kids, and basically I didn't get to see them at all at the time, and because I was leaving, I was going to America. So I went to America for 2 months, did some work over there, did roofing and stuff like that. Went to college, did some college, and then came back to Japan and came back in October, late October of 2005, and then I got remarried in November 7th of 2005 to my new wife, and she was I'll tell you what happened, but she was like the best woman I've ever found, and I'll never be remarried, and I'll probably never date again, just because I don't really want anybody. I would rather have her, but I'm a MGTOW, but if I had to have anybody, it would be her, and it's like she's the only woman I've really ever been attracted to that much, that didn't try to change me, didn't try to affect me. Just we kind of worked everything out as we were dating and stuff, and I kind of told her, it doesn't matter what you want, you're not going to be able to change me, I just don't change, and that pisses girls off. And she's like, I don't give a fuck. So it was just kind of one of those things. And then after I left her and went to America to go back to college, she ended up going back with her ex-husband, who was abusive. So go figure, whatever. So I came back, got married, went back to court, and was able to get the last Sunday of every month to see my kids once for 2 hours, 2 hours or something like that. And that was every month. Basically, I started being able to do that. So I started doing that, and then I started exporting cars again, and did that until 2007. never really had too much issues with my new wife. We had a few things where we had some fights and stuff like that, but it was generally pretty good with her. We had a great sex life. We had sex like every day almost the entire time I was with her, which was like 4 years, from the time that we started dating in March of 2005 until I left to go back to America in 2009 in February. So we were together for like 4 years and had a great time. I didn't have a lot of bad to say about her. She was my fourth wife, and they say the third time's a charm, but I think the fourth time's a charm. And for me, I would say that last relationship that I had with her um, would probably be the best relationship I ever had, and the most fulfilling. And uh, if I had to do it all over again, I probably wouldn't have went back to the U.S. I would have just stayed in Japan and tried to work things out and tried to do business here and stuff like that. I had lost my driver's license because I was driving a motorcycle in Japan, and I didn't have a motorcycle license, so they took my license, which fucked up my business for exporting because I couldn't drive cars, and then basically that made my whole life fucked. So I really fucked myself in the ass there, and so I ended up having issues from all that, and it was getting harder and harder. And I thought, well, I'd come back to America, I'll get a job really quick, I'll make some money, and then I'll be able to bring her over, because she had never been to America and she's never been out of Japan besides to go to England when she was in school. So she was really good at English, and that's one thing that turned me on about her, because I didn't know she knew English. And we were sitting in the daycare for the kids' recital or something like that. They were having like a Christmas thing or something like that. And I have tattoos and stuff, and she was like, "What's that tattoo of?" And she said it in English, and I was like, "Wow, she speaks English," and that got me really impressed about her. So I like I say, I really got not a lot to say that's bad about her. Once I went back to America, we had talked on the phone for like a year, and then a year after I was there, it was like 2010 in March, and she asked if I would divorce her on paper, if I would get a divorce, which I didn't have to sign anything because basically it's like abandonment. So she was able to sign a paper for divorce, and that allowed her in Japan, if you're divorced and you have kids, you can get free health care through the medical system here. So I said, yeah, I guess, I can't do anything about it. I'm like 10,000 miles away. What the fuck am I going to do? So I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And then it was about a year later, we slowly started to talk less and less, because I didn't realize when I came back to the U.S., I thought I would get a job and bring her over, and we'd have a great life, and we'd move back to America, and I'd go to college or do something, and we'd have a great life over there. And I didn't realize that the economy had tanked. So when I got there, I had a really hard time finding work, and I couldn't find anything worth a while. So I ended up getting fucked, and because of that, I lost my wife. If I would have had a decent time and been able to find a job, get good money, I could have flew them over to the U.S. and brought them there, and I would still be married right now with my wife. So, yeah, I ended up talking to her less and less, because things were going wrong and I was having a lot of trouble, and I ended up talking to her less and less on the phone, because I didn't want to call her and tell her all the, it's like if you're calling and talking to your wife and you're trying to tell her things about your life and things like that, it's really not any fun to like call her and tell her, yeah, my life sucks, I don't have a job, I'm not making any money, blah blah blah, this kind of stuff. It's not cool. It's not fun to do that. So I started talking to her less and less, just because I didn't want to call her and tell her like, yeah, nothing's going right. I'm not making any money. I've got a job, but it's really shitty, and I'm not making any money doing it, and blah blah blah. I didn't want to call her and tell her that kind of shit. I wanted to be able to call her and tell her like, I've got a job and it's really good money and blah blah, like that, which didn't happen. So I started talking to her less and less, and it was about April of 2011, and we stopped talking altogether. And she didn't contact me anymore until a friend of mine who was working for my company found her and was able to tell me that he has her as a friend on his page. So he gave me her email address, and or not her email address, but her Facebook page, and I was able to contact her and contact my son, my adopted son, which I adopted him when we were together, and talk to them. So she had told me that she was now with her ex-husband, and to now think of this. I never did anything to her. Never called her names, never was a bitch. We had a great sex life. Nothing ever happened to her. And this is what she told me. She's like, I'm back with my ex-husband. You need to live your own life. I don't want to have anything to do with you. This is, and like I said, this is the best woman. This is something, if any of you guys are watching and you're younger guys, this is the best woman I've ever found. And I've been with hundreds of women, and I've been married 4 times. I've been engaged 6 times, married 4 of those girls. And that's the best girl I've ever found, okay? And the only reason why she was the best girl I've ever found is because after being in a relationship with my other wife for 7 years, I was able to have sex with my wife every day if I wanted to. And she genuinely was attracted to me. So the fact that happened made her the best wife I ever had, because I was actually, usually when you're with a woman, and you guys will know this, usually when you're with a girl, you typically, you have that kind of euphoric stage where you're attracted to her for the first, we'll say 3 months, and you want to fuck all the time. Those first, the first month is like, you're fucking like 6 times a day. Every time you're with each other, you, instead of eating dinner, you make dinner, you take a couple bites, and then you end up fucking on the floor, that kind of thing. And then after about 3 months or so, 3-4 months, it kind of tapers off, and you start to have sex like once every week, and after about 6 months, it might be once every 2 weeks, and it kind of tapers off and tapers off. And the longer you go out, after about a year, you might be having sex like 3 times a month, and it basically tapers off, which is why a lot of people end up cheating. And that just never happened with me and her. We were constantly attracted to each other, and we had sex all the time. I was, even when I left her in February of 2009, we'd already been together since 2005, and we were still having sex like 3 or 4 times a week. So yeah, she was the greatest girl I ever found because of that. But after I came back here, she was actually, I just wrote her an email and told her, everything was where I was going to be staying at and all this stuff, just in case she wanted to contact me, in case she was bullshitting and saying she went back with her ex-husband just because she didn't want anything to do with me and she was with somebody new, which could happen too. I have no idea, But I got back here, and I had a business license for Japan, and I was trying to start my music company here. And I had to go to the police office to change it, and change it to my new address and stuff like that. And they told me that one wasn't legal because I didn't have that company anymore that it was under, and I had to get a new one. So I had to go back to the Kobe place where I got it from, and then I would have to go to where I'm at now in Nagata police office and get a new one. So I went to Nagata to get one, to change it, because I was in Nagata Prefecture, and they told me I had to go to the Kobe one. So I went over to the Kobe one, and when I got there, the police came in, they brought in a translator and all this stuff, and they said that my wife, keep in mind, she's the best woman I ever found, she had called the police, told them I was coming back to Japan, and told them that I was stalking her, that I was a stalker, and that she was afraid. Think about that. After all the story that I just told you about her, she was afraid of me. Because I loved her, never hit her once, never treated her bad, totally in love, wanted to bring her to America, had fucking problems while I was there. She left me, went back with her ex-husband, and she's scared of me. You know? So, whatever. So, I told them, you know, they would have me write down a thing, and like, why was I back in Japan, and all this bullshit, and like, interrogated me like I was doing something wrong, and, you know, some real fucked up shit, you know, just stupid, fucking childish, fucking ignorant shit, you know? So, it really pissed me off, you know? And, I told him, look, I don't give a fuck, you know, she can live her own life. I don't really care anymore. If she's back with her ex-husband, I don't really give a fuck, you know, whatever. I don't plan on ever getting married again. Like I say, she was the best woman I ever found, and, you know, from this story that I'm telling you, she wasn't that great, obviously. And I didn't find out until after I left her, you know. So, yeah, so after that, I've been here in Japan for 8-9 months now. She actually lives, her and my ex-wife, and my kids with my ex-wife and her kids, the new wife, they live maybe 4 kilometers from where I live at, you know, about 3 miles away, not even that far. So I can actually walk there from here. So, you know, and I've seen her once waiting at the bus stop when I was walking my bike up the hill, and I actually seen her. She changed her hair to like kind of an orange color, you know, kind of a dyed her hair or whatever. So yeah, so I've bumped into her mom on the bus, and her mom seen me, and her mom was like, oh, you know, and I just acted like I didn't remember who she was or whatever, and I just kind of like, you know, didn't acknowledge that I knew who she was. So her mom just like seen me, went, oh, and then like acted like it wasn't a big deal after that. So whatever. So that's the story of my last wife, and my last wife and last period, probably. I'm not going to say probably. I probably will never be married again. You know, I don't want anything to do with being married anymore. You know, with a woman, anyways. You know, like I say, I'm transgender. I'm into women. Sometimes that changes when guys start taking medicine. You know, if you start taking the medicine and stuff. So who knows? But I know that I'll never date or marry a Japanese woman or a woman in general anymore. I just don't have any inclination. I can see through the facade, and it's nothing that I want to be involved with. You have to give your entire self to a woman to be with one, and it's not really something that any self-respecting man should sign up for. You're property when you're married, and the wife owns you even after you're divorced. So they'll use everything you own against you, everything that you've ever done against you, and that's their goal in a relationship, is to get something on you, to blackmail you, to where someday when you break up, they can use that against you, and they can say, well, you did this, and you did this, and you did this, and you did this, and I'm a victim, and you're an awful person, and blah blah blah. You know, even if they cheated on you, they'll turn it around on you, like it was your fault that she fucked some dude. You know, so this is the story of my fourth wife, and the lovely story of our love. So yeah, if you got anything you want to comment, if you want to hear any stories of my life, if you want me to go into more detail about things, if you want to like this video, share it, and comment on it, that'd be great. And like I say, just comment in the section below if you want to hear anything about my life, hear anything about Japan, know any more, or whatever. And thank you guys for watching, and have a nice day.